Iganash, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear artists, dear collectors, dear public. First of all, I have to thank the organizers for inviting me to participate in this art fair as an expert, but also as a critical eye or observer, and above all, thank you for having the confidence, the courage to take the risk of holding a fair for media art at a difficult economic and political time. Also, this art genre has found its place in exhibitions and collections for more than half a century. It is still viewed with reserve by many collectors. One of the reasons for this is that every technical media-based artwork ages from the moment it is completed, and at the same time, its hard and software are developed further within a very short space of time, or just after a few years is often no longer available in its original functioning. The collector's handicap is that very few collections can guarantee the daily maintenance when the works are on display, or have their own specialists to adapt the functioning to the constantly changing conditions, especially the conditions of software. As co-founder of the ZKM Center for Art and Media in Karlsruhe, I have had the chance to be responsible for the development, preservation, and exhibition of one of the world's most important public collections of media art for more than 2 decades, since 1994. In addition, the international orientation of ZKM has enabled me to show this collection in many countries, including also Turkey, with my first exhibition of digital art in Turkey, which was placed under the title Touch Me, Istanbul Interactive Media Art at the former Central Istanbul Museum, opened in July 2007 on the new campus of Bilgi University in Silatara, Istanbul. When we look back on the rapid evolution of this genre, we must overcome a common misconception. All art needs a medium. All art is media art in this understanding. However, if we are referring specifically to computer-processed art, for more clarity, we should better call it digital art, as the French are calling it art numérique, which is not art media, it is art numérique, digital art. So, however, it should be clear that media art is not the sole result and privilege of the digital. The essence of art always lies exclusively in the idea. And this idea can be expressed in any material: stone, wood, paint, canvas, paper, with any tool and any technique. All of this is media art. As an impulse, art can open doors of perception. And like any catalyst, art itself is not changed by this process. Another misconception needs to be cleared up is that media art, whether analog or digital, is primarily associated with Western Europe and the USA, and in recent years also with Asia. With the following examples, however, I would like to remind you of 2 works of arts by Turkish and Kurdish artists that accompanied me on my journey. The first known Turkish video performance, La Femme sans tête ou La danse du ventre, by the brilliant Nil Yalta, amazing for its early time, 1974, and its social context. And secondly, 30 years later, the humorous, ironically critical video directed by Şener Özmen from 2003, in which Şener Özmen and Erkan Özgen, disguised as Don Quixote and Sancho Panza, hopefully set off in the middle of the Anatolian hinterland in search on the way to the Tate Modern. In this context, I should also recall the important lifelong work of Kurdish artist Halil Altınol, which has had a social impact since many years, and which is being shown in many countries all over the world. Halil, who is a friend of mine, is very much engaged in question of social, society, and politics. And that is the core of his work, which he expresses with any media possible. In the 30 years between these two named video artworks, there has been a remarkable shift towards media art in Turkey, not unlike anywhere else. Artists have continuously appropriated new technologies for their work and have increasingly questioned and overcome the more narrow national focus in favor of a broader global orientation. And this has had a strong impact on all local and regional art scenes. Turkish and Kurdish media artists have long since found their way to international art events. And last but not least, this is because active galleries in Turkey, new private museums in Turkey, and art fairs and biennials have developed into important art scenes in Turkey and in many other regions. If we now look back to the developments in art, technology, society over the last 20 years, since 2003 to 2023, from the metaphorical search for the road to Tate Modern in 2003 to the present day, it becomes clear that media art usually not only keeps pace with the fastest technical evolutions, but is always or often ahead of them or directly involved in these developments. No sooner have the major media groups joined forces with enormous investments for new profitable applications that it becomes apparent that artistic intelligence has long since penetrated the field of artificial intelligence and is using it in a different, enlightening, even sometimes subversive way. Many artists around the world have been working in the field of machine learning and visualization technologies with varying degrees of intent and quality. To name a few, I recall the early work of architecture machine group at MIT in Boston, or the work of Lynn Hirschman Leeson. Today, artists like Christa Sommerer, Alain Mignonneau, Daniel Kanuga, Trevor Paglen, Mark Lee should be named here. And yes, also Studio Ouch in Istanbul, as I said, with different intentions and quality. And not to forget my former student at Bilgi University, Refik Anadol, who is venturing far ahead and achieving amazing results, whose future development and impact we cannot yet foresee. But we should be watchful. Despite all the hype, it is completely wrong to create even more virtuoso visual virtual worlds with the help of AI and to profitably pass them and these machine hallucinations as art. Is it art? The question has not been solved. The result of such development would be aesthetic spectacles with overwhelming productions that leave the visitors no room for their own thoughts, often based on the misuse of old master paintings to trigger emotions, and mostly created from mass data that is regularly entered into gigantic databases by millions of click workers for far less than a minimum wage. AI would then merely become a tireless generator of ephemeral sensory stimuli without meaning. The constant attempt to humanize AI is nothing more than a convenient marketing ploy that takes advantage of man's eternal desire for liberation of his limitations. Machines, algorithms, AI definitely cannot make art, ever. Only humans can, because art is by definition an exclusively human form of expression. But humans can use AI as a tool for their own art. Nobody knows today where the latest technology in this area will lead. What is certain, however, is that media art has repeatedly set milestones that have reached broad sections of society through their application in technology and popular media. The future does indeed need a completely new understanding of art. Only a short-sighted economistic view sees art as a mere product and a pleasant commodity that can be produced in abundance, reproduced and sold on a global market. It has been known since antiquity that you can never have culture in the sense of owning an object or as a characteristic of a person, but you can only make or do culture. Culture is the creative process in which people appropriate and shape their world. And this also includes economy. Culture, especially art, is therefore not in opposition to the economy. On the contrary, art, in all its forms and formats, is the deepest source and the strongest catalyst for technology and economy since the ancient times. Art is essentially invention and intervention, research, skill and knowledge, consciousness and practice, and not least the further development and subversion of previous practices in art have preceded technological and social change. Invention and intervention anticipate, initiate, prepare the thinking, the models, the forms of action, and even the technical tools that are offered for enduring change in all other areas in society. With this understanding of art, we also understand that not war is the father of all things, but that art is the mother of all things. Media art can be an active process of participation in society, and it has proved to be this active process since many years, and of becoming aware of how things are and how they should develop in a democratic society. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you the best perspectives for the new art fair, Noise, Make Noise, yeah? And I want to come back next year or the year after next year. Thank you so much. Well, have a nice visit, a nice afternoon.
Can I ask you one question?
Yes, sure.
Yes. You said that there are people naming it media art. As you said, it was sometimes the art numérique. That is not exactly digital art. We have also named it electronic art. Nowadays, it's more named like Web3 and blah, blah, blah.
Technological art,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah.
Technical art.
Yeah. Art and technology experiment, I would say, the series. Don't you think that finally this trend that we can't name has its force in the fact that it's never totally contemporary, nor totally creative industry, nor totally academic, nor totally... finally, it's very difficult to name, so it's its course, the trend of...
Yes, exactly. So what we vaguely call media art is a process of appropriating new technologies as new tools in the domain of art, in the domain of culture. And this has a lot of different, of different phases, of different applications. Yeah. If we want, we could at least assemble 10 words for this art form. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Pardon?
May I ask, are you okay with more questions?
Yes, sure.
You had mentioned, you started talking about culture, and art in relation to culture, and it sounded like you were sort of thinking through the lens of Arendt and the way she talks about culture. And the notion that, culture isn't something that you have, but is this thing that can be made and that it's there. And it's there across time, right? So people come to a cultural object and can revisit ideas of the past and rethink the present through the object. And from that, you were then talking about how, art can then be a catalyst for technology and economy. And so I was just wondering if you could say a little bit more about how you were thinking of a cultural object and art as a catalyst for economy.
Art is not an object. It's not a commodity. It's not like going to the gallery and I buy my artwork, I hang it in the wall, and I have art. Not possible. I can never have art. I cannot never claim, as it is in the German culture, to say, ich habe Kultur. I have culture. Never possible. I can do culture, and that's what I do right now, and what I might be doing differently tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. It's an evolution. So as long as we have the courage to take part in this evolution, we don't have culture, but we do culture. We are participating. So new technologies, since many years, since at least 100 years, but more precisely speaking, digital technologies since at least 50 years or even more. Since the very early beginnings of the digital, artists all over the world have tried to use the digital as tools in order to express what they wanted to do. And in this sense, during all these times, they have importantly participated in the development of technology. Because pure technicians, programmers, coders, they don't have the imagination of inventing new social forms, new art forms, new cultural forms. So in this sense, the application of new technologies in art is the development of new technologies, of the impact on technologies. Let me give one example. At the ZKM in Karlsruhe, we had a section, a big section, which was well funded under the direction of artist Jeffrey Shaw, Australian. So Jeffrey started to speak about panoramic cinema, 360 by 180 degree, which was an illusion. It was, technically speaking, impossible for a long time. So this part of the ZKM developed a camera head with 25 video cameras, which needed 25 big hard disks and which pointed into any direction. But these 25 video images had to be glued together. There had to be somebody to write the software which is able to integrate 25 flowing images into one image, which could be understandable and which could be transferred by some 4 or 6 projectors to an inflated dome. The projection screen as an inflated surface of 360, 180 degrees. This took 4 to 6 years, and it worked, and it was even interactive, and it was all what we needed and wanted. Now today, every one of you is having this technology in his or her pocket. Your smartphones can deliver exactly this kind of images, of recording, and even of, well, could we say that the idea of artists are at the beginning of this kind of technological evolution? Well, they need technicians, yes, but the technicians don't bring the ideas. Now, 4 to 6 billion people in the world are disposing exactly of this technology. And they are connected to each other, to each place in the world, if they want, if they open their minds. And this opening of the minds, I told it, opening of the doors of perception, which is more nice, opens the mind of people also in the social and political context. It's an evolution which cannot be stopped, not by any dictators, but it takes a time. It takes a long time. And among our contemporary artists, there are quite a lot of people who have understood what it means and who try every day to get nearer to this point of more clarity, less decoration, less influence, less forced impact on people, a more open view, a more open discussion of things, a more open connection between people of all kinds. And that is social impact of the arts. Is that your question?
Could you argue then that, artists that use technology, it's almost like a conversion from economic to desires or military desires? Because, of course, many technologies are developed through that. So it's this conversion process that takes place where it's almost the desire from totalitarian use or an economic use to cultural use, a completely different kind of understanding of technology.
Well, I would, even if this word is not so much welcome in this country, I would call it subversion. The subversion of art or in art, or the subversive qualities of art. And I think that most of the artists have understood that. Is that your question?
Yeah, I that's the way I see what it is that we do, is this way of kind of taking something that, there's the invention of technology and engineers that are constantly pushing this technologies forward, but then we can kind of twist them to show another side, another potential.
We can, and some do. And this message is being heard. It is not super fluent. It is being heard by many people, step by step. Fine. We could have coffees now and good artworks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you too.